I'm here to settle an argument today. Should you spend your hard-earned money on fancy RGB fans that are gonna light up your brand new custom PC build and give it a sense of style and maybe help set a theme that matches your personality? Or should you spend that money on performance-focused fans that are gonna deliver the best airflow and static pressure to efficiently cool all your expensive components and do it as silently as possible? We'll pit the king of fancy fans against the king of quality fans and settle this thing once and for all. Let's do this. Hey guys, welcome to Elevated Systems. I'm your host CJ, and let's just get right into this and introduce the competitors in this battle of the fans. In the RGB corner, representing blindingly colorful PC builds, are the Lian Li Uni fans. These have arguably been the hottest selling PC fans since their introduction a couple of years ago. And these are the newest version, the SL-INF, featuring the infinity mirror RGB effect on the hub and sides of the fan. In the good corner, representing performance-focused quiet PC builds, are the NF-A12x25 PWM fans by Noctua. When it comes to PC fans and cooling, Noctua has the well-earned reputation as being among, if not the best, especially when it comes to performance to noise ratio. Taking a quick look at the stats, we see that each of these fans is pretty evenly matched. These are both 120mm fans and cost the same for a single fan. The Uni fans do come in 3 and 5 packs that will reduce the per fan cost. The Uni fans are about 100 RPM faster and do have a 0 RPM mode using the L-Connect software. The Noctua fans can also spin down to 0 if the motherboard supports it through PWM. The Lian Li fans have a slight advantage in airflow and static pressure, partially due to their higher max RPM. As far as the bearing types, while Lian Li uses a typical fluid dynamic bearing, Noctua uses their custom SSO2 bearing that uses magnets to help stabilize a hydrodynamic type bearing. The one area these two differ significantly is noise level, with the Uni fans putting out about 4 times the sound energy as the Noctua fans. We should also look at the features and included accessories for the fans, starting with the Uni fans, which come in single, 3, or 5 packs and are offered in black or white. The single packs only include the fan, a cable that splits the proprietary fan connector into standard PWM and 3-pin RGB cables for directly connecting to the motherboard, and 4 mounting screws. The 3-pack comes with a control hub, 4 proprietary connection cables that connect the fans to the hub, a cable that connects the hub to a USB 2 header, and 1 to connect it to an ARGB and PWM fan header, and a proprietary splitter cable. There are 3 sets of mounting screws, instructions for installation, and a user manual for the L-Connect 3 software. There's also included these clear plastic protectors for the mirrored side of the fans, which after some testing is necessary because the side mirrors do easily scratch. The Noctua fans are only offered in single packs and come in the standard tan and brown or the Chromax black swap, which is what I received. The fan is PWM controlled, so there's only 1 4-pin PWM cable and 4 each anti-vibration corner pads in gray, black, white, yellow, green, blue, and red, as well as a single black 4-sided anti-vibration pad which provides a good seal on all 4 sides when mounting the fan to a radiator. And finally, 4 mounting screws. Missing from this model are the rubber quiet mounting pegs I'm used to seeing with Noctua fans. Those, of course, were all the paper specs provided by the manufacturers I rattled off a minute ago, so let's check out the battleground for these fan tests. This is a gaming PC built with a Ryzen 7 5700G with PBO enabled and an EVGA RTX 2080 Black Edition on an Asus B550 gaming motherboard. The CPU is cooled with a 240mm Aorus AIO, all enclosed in a Fractal Meshify 2 compact. I'll be installing 6 of our test fans in the case, 3 as front panel intake fans, 2 on the top mounted AIO radiator and push configuration, and 1 in the rear as an exhaust. The test data is simple. How well do each set of these fans cool the PC components, CPU, GPU, and motherboard during a 20-minute combined CPU and GPU stress test, and what are the measured noise levels when doing it? Of course, Part of assessing PC parts is the installation process. I'll start with the Noctua fans as they theoretically should be the most simple. However, because these are 6 individual fans and most motherboards don't have 6 PWM fan headers, you will need fan splitters or splitter cables. I used a simple Y splitter for the 2 CPU cooler fans and a simple PWM hub to connect the 4 case fans. The only other comment I have is the inclusion of only 4 of the color swap pads. I kind of get that you may not be able to see the sides of the fan that's up against the case or the radiator, so black pads are fine, but in many instances, you can see those corners or parts of them, so it'd be nice if all 8 of the corners matched. Now, with the Lian Li fans, of course, their featured feature is the ability to snap the fans together, daisy chaining them, and eliminating the need for a cable for each individual fan. There is, of course, the need to use the hub, which requires a SATA power connection, a USB header, and of course, the need to install the software, which I did do, but then just immediately switched it to motherboard control. The L-Connect software does give you seemingly endless possibilities when it comes to lighting and fan curves, but I'm not going to get into that today as it could easily take up an entire video in itself. Also, a couple of things missing from the accessories that would be beneficial is a simple fan to fan connector cable. So for example, I could connect the top radiator fans directly to the rear exhaust fan. Also, why doesn't the 3-pack come with one of the simple PWM RGB adapters like the single pack does? Having the ability to completely bypass the controller would be nice. I do have 2 of the single pack, so I did use one of those splitters to connect the AIO fans to the motherboard PWM CPU header, so I could set the same exact fan curves as I did for the Noctua fans for testing. And speaking of the test, let's get to the heart of the matter and check out the results. This is a gaming PC, so to keep it as realistic as possible while being able to be repeatable, I used the AIDA64 stress test, loading the CPU and GPU simultaneously for 20-minute stretches, and repeated the test for a few different fan curves. And our first set of results is using the ASUS's motherboard standard fan curve, and we see that for the CPU and GPU, the temps are all within a single degree. The Noctua fans have the slight edge on the GPU, Lian Li on the CPU. However, the Lian Li has a significant 4-degree edge with the VRM temps, and this is due to more airflow, however not in a good way. I'll explain in a bit. Dialing in a custom fan curve to balance noise to performance, and the Noctua fans have the advantage here, especially in average temps, but not by too much considering the performance to noise focus of Noctua. And again, we see the Uni fans hold better VRM temps. Now, when we max the fans out at 100%, we now see the CPU temps are actually dead even, with the GPU temps pretty close to even, and again, better VRM temps for the Lian Li fans. So far, we see that fancy fans, good fans for a typical gaming PC are really close. Actually, for the most part, they're within the margin of error as my software only gives max temps in whole degrees, as well as my ambient air thermometer. But what about noise levels? Well, at the peak of the custom fan curve test, the RPM maxed at about 1660 for the Noctua fans and at about 1648 for the Uni fans, which gave us noise levels of 45.3 dBA above background for the Uni fans, while the NF-A12s registered 42.4. So because noise level calculations are logarithmic, a 3 dBA rise is actually double the sound energy. As far as sound levels at idle, which was right around 500 RPM for both sets of fans, the Noctua fans didn't even register above background. This doesn't mean they produce 0 decibels, it just means my sound level meter isn't sensitive enough to register it above the 41.5 dBA ambient sound levels in my office. The Lian Li fans did raise the level up to 52.3, which calculates to an idle noise level of 34.6 dBA, which doesn't register my eardrums. Sitting this far away from the PC, I can't even hear the fans right now at idle. Now, when we ramp up the fans to full speed, surprisingly, we flip the script. I'll just let you hear this one for yourself. Now, the Noctua fans are rated at 2000 RPM max, but that rating usually has a plus or minus of 10%. The Noctua fans were actually spinning at about 2129 RPM at max, so within the 10% margin, but once they passed the 2000 RPM, you started hearing that oscillating frequency and the sound level spiked. Basically from 1880 RPM to that 2129, the dBA rose from 45.8 dBA up to that 52.1 dBA. Now, about that seemingly big advantage the Unifans seem to have in VRM cooling, it's actually a byproduct of the loss of static pressure with the radiator fans. A good amount of air is basically bouncing off the radiator and back through the fan blades directly onto the VRM heatsink. Now, in this typical gaming PC with an 8-core CPU operating at about 90 watts, not a big deal. We saw the temps didn't suffer, but if you increase the heat load, then the loss becomes more significant. To demonstrate, I put the fans on a 360mm Enermax TR4 AIO cooling my 32-core Threadripper, and now we see the Noctua fans significantly pull away from the Unifans by almost 22% in average temps. So basically, to boil all that data down to the most basic questions, which one of these fans will give you better performance in a typical gaming PC like this? Neither. This gaming PC will perform exactly the same with either of these fans. If you want a lit up, RGB'd out PC with endless customization possibilities, then get the fancy fans. If you have more conservative tastes and simple and quiet is your thing, go with the Noctua fans. It's your custom PC. You do you and don't let anyone tell you different. Shout out to my boy from Micro Center. Make sure you share this with your unenlightened friend and to everyone else watching, of course. I hope you learned something. This is why I do what I do. Whichever way you go with your PC fan selection, links to these are in the description below. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. Be sure to hit that like and maybe consider subscribing, and I hope to catch you in the next one.